resources to help.
Morning, this is Lisa Nollman. I'm the Connecticut partner for First Lego League Explore and Discover programs. I'm going to talk to you a little bit here about this unusual environment we're trying to run programs in. With hybrid and remote schools comes hybrid and remote programs such as this. So I'll see if I can go over just some suggestions and answer some questions. So please, there is a chat feature to your the channel that you're watching on. Please put any questions you have in there. At the end, I'll be able to see them and I can answer. I think that even a suggestion too, because I think we're all figuring this out together really. Very true to the teamwork of FIRST. This whole season is going to be teamwork. My email is up there. You can find it on firstinspires.org also. But please feel free to reach out with questions. This is like a constantly evolving situation we are all in. I find there's always more information coming from FIRST. I just discovered something great and new this morning even. So you can always ask. I might have an answer I didn't have even a week ago. This is probably the way everybody's feeling right now. We don't have answers to much. Can we meet in person? Will it get better later in the year? Can I wash my Legos? And if you've, I won't date myself, but most of you might recognize a magic 8-ball that never really gives you any helpful answers. That's kind of the way we're operating. We're doing the best with guidance that we have. This link here is very good if you have not found it. You may have gotten emails if you're a registered team. I keep finding links to the same document that is FLL COVID guidelines, but when I go to look for it, I can't always get back there. So that link there, keep that, remember it, take a picture of it. It has a lot of information. It is where I found this morning a whole guideline for the Discover program. So it will be the general guideline for FLL I don't find as helpful as I wished it was, but I think again, that's because this is a very constantly changing. We don't know everything about COVID and we're doing our best. So ask your questions as they come up. And if I don't have answers, I will find them after as best I can. So Discover is the younger program for grades K and 1, for kids 4 to 6. If you are somebody that is trying to run one of those programs, it's possible you're in a better situation than most because they are, again, usually done through a school, and maybe your school is already in session part of the time, and when you have the kids, you can run the program on those days. This program has a STEAM Park set that is a suggested add-on. I think that it would be very helpful this year because if you're trying to keep kids from touching similar objects, if you have enough Legos, you can split them up and each have their own to work with. All the FIRST programs are really built around teamwork and working together. It adds an interesting challenge for us all. But again, if you have enough supplies, maybe you can share them. And your school probably already has guidelines for you, your local health department. So we can't really, it's one of the reasons sometimes there's not enough info or suggestions maybe is that we don't know how your school is operating, but we can do our best to make some. If you have this, I really suggest you go to that link I had on the page before because they have a very good, very descriptive guide for this level. They talk about how to split up Legos. They talk about how to rotate them home with the different students, if that's an option, if they're home and they can have a set 1 week, bring it back, send them something different the next week. That is going to be a godsend. I don't actually have to probably explain as much as or try to come up with ways for you to run this program. I do think they did a good job with that. I had this kind of set up before. I found that this morning, but this program has these 6 bricks activities, and that picture below is what comes when you get a class pack. There's one of those for each family, each student to take home and use anyway. It's already an activity for home. So if you are remote, those activities are built in for you to do through some type of a remote interface with the kids. I mentor a high school robotics team in town, and they ran a summer camp remotely this summer, And one of the things they said to me was the youngest kids really need a helper all the time. So if you try to do this from their homes, you need to encourage a parent, older sibling to be sitting with them, because not only the technology, but just the trying to build, they do so much better when they have somebody sitting with them. And I find this level is a lot of creative building, drawing prompts, and I also feel like it goes very well with if you have to be remote. If they have that person to help them, it's a easy program to do that way. So I will send you back to that document again, because I don't want to I don't want to reinvent the wheel for you, but I do think this one is possible. I do think that having enough supplies to split them up will be very helpful to you. I'm not sure I would really want to have to deal with them coming and going back to me every week and cleaning them. It might be easier to just have enough that they can keep them for the program and return them at the end. I also don't think that they have to build together when you're in the classroom quite as much as some of the other levels. So I think you can keep them in their own spaces in the classroom, and they can, the teamwork can come into their sharing. So talking about what they made, building their, or drawing to their prompt, and then sharing it with the rest of the class, and they can all be socially distanced, I guess, very well. The Explore level, I think, has some more challenges with it. Again, it is about building together. For this one, really more so than the other one. They have, the whole program is, you have your 6 students, and you split them into 2 groups of 3, and they act as like a team within a team, building and problem solving and programming. And that if you can't have 3 kids together, that will be tricky. If you can keep 3 as like a cohort within your classroom, maybe it's either a neighborhood team and those 3 are siblings, or you're in a classroom where you already break the class into smaller groups that can be closer together every day. That's like their top small cohort. You could probably still do the program as is. There's usually only 1 we-do motor per team, making that a little difficult for us if you are remote or you are just trying to distance in the classroom. And there is a season-specific Lego model. For every season, that is one of the ways this program functions. It's something that they will have in their model in their final project. It's something that's one of the activities in the season. This program was developed before COVID, so everything was already built, packaged, Legos made, books printed before there was a chance to adjust. So we can modify, we can find ways to still give the kids an experience. I feel that FIRST, I've been involved for like 10 years now. Really, the idea is getting kids interested in STEM, getting them excited to be creative, teaching them how to do that instead of just following a book when they build just the exact, Batman mobile or something. It's getting them into those other, building those other skills and getting their interest. So whatever version this season takes, we'll still do that for them. I think that keeping in mind the end goal is to get them interested in STEM, get them excited, get them using Legos in a different way. But, if you can't follow the book exactly this year, that is okay. Go with the idea of what it's trying to get the kids to think about or learn. So there's some things you can do to try to minimize sharing if you're in the same building space, or if the kids are not able to come together. The challenge set that you get, the season Explore set they call it, has some bags for the season specific model, but then a number of bags with the number 4 on it. They're for general building. They call it, I think, prototyping sets, and they say bag 4, but it's really like there's 6 or 7 bag 4s. So if you were to open them, I was doing this, and you can open all of those, and you could split them into 6 bags of Legos that you could send home with kids. Or if you're in person but you don't want them to share, you give them each a bag with their name on it, and that's the ones that they use every time they're together. The kits also come with 6 small base plates, these like gray square base plates, and there's one for each student. So they can build things on that, and it makes it a bit portable if you need to, bring it back and forth, or for them to share it. I mean, possibly they will be remote for all your meetings, and they'll build their piece of the project on their base plate, and maybe you get to come together somehow at the end, and they can bring those with them. So the other piece that will kind of help you with the Legos, the We Do piece of it. So the season kit is basic building blocks, I find, and some helpful things like pieces that look like slides. The We Do kit that teams have is usually more the simple machine type Legos, and you're going to reuse those every year, so you may not want to loan those out. That is a little harder because you'd want to get them back. You also just have a We Do. So I haven't tried, we didn't use them in the summer camp around here, but you could potentially have the We Do be something that goes to a different student each week if they're not in person, or if you're in person each week, possibly it's one student's chance to work with the We Do. Not ideal, but the We Do is operate Bluetooth with a computer, so you could have it where multiple students, let's say you hook the We Do up, you build a model for that session and you hook the We Do up to it, and kids in the room can do the program on their own computer, and they can connect to the We Do when you tell them it's their turn, and they can try their program out. We've done that some with sharing in smaller groups. So that is one way if you're in person that you could, you may not want them to all use those Legos in turn and be touching the same ones and really working with the We Do hands-on, but you could attach it to something that moves, and then you have them do just the programming. It keeps them a little bit separate. On that idea, possibly if you're remote, same thing, the coach could have it, and the We Do software is free and downloadable onto any device pretty much. So kids at home could put it on their computer and they could try a program that they could share with the coach, either with a picture or a screenshot, and then the coach would have to have the software where they are. They have to put the program into the software where they physically are and have it run the We Do. That would be a little trickier. That might be something where you want kids to submit a program. It's older age, maybe you have them try writing something and then they send it to you, and then the next time you try out everybody's programs. There's different ways to do that. It will very much, I think, depend on your kids. Some kids will have patience with that. Some kids will you'll lose them. They don't want to wait. They don't want to take turns that very much. If you've ever done this age group before, you never know what the dynamic will be of your particular kids. And then again, you could have it go home if they're remote with a different student each week. That brings in, I suppose you're going to get it back. Now you have to clean it before you hand it out. Do you want to have to deal with doing that? That's really up to you. Lego has in there, that COVID document is a link to Lego's document on how to clean Legos. It's basically soap and water, which doesn't really work with a motor. So you're more maybe taking some sanitizing wipes and wiping them down. And they will tell you any harsh chemicals can ruin the Legos over time. But many of us are parents. I don't think you're probably going to destroy your Legos by using a sanitizing wipe. Just, use your own judgment and see if you can maybe rotate it through that way. The other thing I will suggest with that, We Do is trying to get kids interested in programming. There are other ways that you could do that if you are remote and you find that the physical objects and the sharing just aren't for you. There's a few different things here that I will talk about. So, not in the best order, so I might jump around here. So the very bottom one, the scratch.mit.edu, that is a site that hosts the Hour of Code every year, which some of you may know about. And that is an effort every year to get kids interested in coding. So that site, if you just go to the main page, has some very basic places you can go to just try out coding. You drag and drop these little icons, and there's a cat in the upper right corner, and the different icons will have him do something, him, her. It'll make it move, spin, say hello, different functions. That's something you could maybe try in a meeting. You could demo that on your screen for the parents, maybe have a parent come to that with a kid, show them that this exists, and that's something that they could do at home if you're trying to add a little content to them at home because you feel like there's not enough to really get them interested. For future reference, that Scratch can actually connect with the We Do. I don't know that that's going to help you this year, but that's just an interesting fact to know for the future. The other thing I do want to share with you now, this top link here, this First Inspires at Home STEM curriculum is really long for you to probably go typing in now, but you could take a picture of it. But I find that if you go to firstinspires.org and you click on the educator page, a link to this tends to pop up right now because they're trying to really promote it and get it out to people. It will pop up if asking you if you want to download this curriculum. So it's an easy sign up. It wants your email and your name and what programs you want access to. So if you're doing Explore, you might just want to click on that one. Maybe you're curious and you want to do the one younger and older than that program to see what's in it. You're going to get access to curriculum, online curriculum. And each thing I think is like 45 minutes to an hour. They are STEM based, so like some of them might get kids thinking about programming, creative building, simple machines were in there. So I think that those can be another helpful way to add on to the curriculum. I think the Explore is set up where if you have those two groups of 3 kids, one group is doing a creative theme drawing, building, kind of like I mentioned with the Discover, and the other group is doing a We Do based activity, and they flip-flop through the season. So that We Do programming piece of it is going to be difficult every week for you to figure out what to do. So I think that sometimes you might find that like instead of having 2 groups of 3 kids, if you're remote, they're just going to be a team and they're individual at the time, and you're going to have, this week we're going to do the building drawing activity that's in the book with your own Legos at home, and next week instead of the We Do, we have to do something different. So maybe one of these curriculum pieces could help fill that in, maybe showing them the Scratch at MIT. Consider too the length of the season is set out as 12 sessions. If you have to go remote, you may look at it and go, there's really nothing for us to do for 12 sessions. But if in the spirit of getting the kids interested, you say, well, we can do these 4 things remotely and they'll be really fun for the kids, and we just won't maybe meet the last 2 times. You may have to just rethink how you're going to organize your season. I don't think this one will fall. The 12 sessions are not going to lend themselves well if you're just fully remote. If you're hybrid, you can plan them based on that. You can plan to say, okay, these we can do when we're not here and these we can do when we are here. Or possibly the group that does the We Do activities is the one that's in person, and the home kids are the ones that are doing the more Lego building, drawing type of activity. Every season, FIRST will have resources. There's always a link in the challenge and resource spot for the Explore level or the junior level it was before. And it has a lot of, it'll have like the challenge, it'll have some build directions, and one of them is a media link, media resources. This year I find it is a lot of websites on kids being active and playing that are heavy on the reading. I feel like they're better for the coaches and the adult mentors. I wasn't finding a lot for the kids. So these 3 other links here, this move.org, Active for Life, and Kids Health, were ones that have something more geared toward kids. I've always found that these first seasons will have a piece of research in it. Like maybe not specifically go on a computer and research, but they want kids to think about how, what happens at the park and what can you do. It has them thinking creatively, and sites like these could be helpful in that. Maybe that's another way to help add to your remote learning or your hybrid learning, is to have them to find a couple of sites that are geared toward kids and that idea of being active, physically active and moving. But maybe they can look a little on their own or with a parent and learn, or maybe you find a specific activity in there that you want to try with them, because it is meant to get them thinking in that terms of how can we play? How can we play differently? How can we play better? How can we include everybody? That can be done in many different ways. I think some of these websites can definitely help you with a few activities in that regard. Okay, timing, just want to talk a little bit about that because I think that can be your friend in this case. We might start our season back in August, but nobody was really ready in August. I find right now in Connecticut, there's maybe 7 teams registered. Usually there's 20 or so right now. I think many people are still trying to figure out how to get going. Can I do this? I think it can be done. It will just look different. I think consider that the season doesn't necessarily have this sudden end you have to adhere to, and that'll be easier for you. So World Championship is off in August. And we usually have events in Connecticut in January to March timeframe, but this year I apologize for the ringing in the background. I don't know how to make that stop because nobody else in my house is answering the phone. We usually do January and March expos and sharing events, but this year we are going to put that off a little bit. I think there's extra time for everybody. FIRST is trying to develop a remote event site for us to use that is, from what I've seen so far, very good, very useful, and probably the way we will run remote expos for this young age. So if you're trying to start, if you're feeling like we're all remote and I don't know how to do this, you could consider whether or not you need to do it right now. Could we wait till January? Maybe. Will it be any better? I don't know. None of us know, right? But possibly if, you might just say, I want to do it in the winter or in the spring, because we can, I will try to get a feeling for teams when they're running and when they would want events. With remote events, they can be small, they can be, don't need quite as many people to support them. So I feel like I could do multiple small events spread out. So maybe there's teams ready in March, we'll have one. Maybe we'll have another one in April, another one in May, kind of depending on how teams ran their season. So do consider timing as possibly being a way to help you just navigate this time. I think that is really all the things that I wanted to kind of share, the thoughts that I had, and just see if I can hop over and if there's any questions already in that chat. Bear with me here a moment. There are a few. Okay. Okay, so one says it is hard to brainstorm with students over Zoom. Any tips? I'm not sure why necessarily that your experience says it's hard. So I'm going to guess here from things I've seen with kids, right? Sometimes they're quiet. If they're quiet, you kind of have to pull them out of their comfort zone. That is kind of tricky. And when you put a kid on the spot and you say, hey, can you tell me what you think, John? And they just, they clam up on you, that's hard. So a suggestion for quiet kids, let's start with that one. If they do have somebody with them, that person on the other end can help with that. But there are ways they could give their ideas in brainstorming, right? You could make it that if there is a chat feature in what they're using, they could type in their idea because maybe they just don't want to talk on camera. I have one kid like that myself. You could have them sketch or write on a piece of paper and hold it up. Sometimes when I've done these young teams, will be trying to come up with ideas of things to build, and for a little while they just simply they sketch and they draw their ideas. So if they hold up that picture and talk about it, sometimes that helps them. It gives them a way to get their thoughts going. Getting them to talk between each other, that I guess I feel like that's somewhat dependent on the platform you use. I feel like some of them are better than others. Some let everybody kind of talk at the same time, which is a little difficult, but may allow for more of that. And some mute out everybody, but one person it decided was the one that gets to talk. So I think you do still want to encourage them to share ideas with each other. And I'm not sure I have a good suggestion for that. I can say if you have a team of 6 kids and there's 2 adults involved, you could try like a breakout session and have 3 kids with one of the coaches and 3 kids with another one. You might get them, that might be a little easier to get that talking going, a little less talking over each other, if that helps. Is there any resource for coaches to talk with other coaches to share ideas. There is not something obvious out there. I think that, let's see, so there's nothing really set up now. If you feel that that would be helpful, I'm going to say I would encourage you to email myself or the partner in your area, because we could try to set that up. Like I have normal seasons, I always do at least one webinar, because some coaches just can't come to an in-person training. Let's say I'll do an in-person training at an event like this, and then I'd end up doing one remote. So if I had coaches saying, I really would love to talk more between each other, I'll set up some type of a Zoom meeting, and I'm sure the other partners would too, that we could get that message out to coaches. We're going to do this at a certain night, and you could come and we can all share ideas. I think this would be an excellent year to do that. And if there's interest, I certainly will. So poke us with, an email, just so that we know that interest is out there, and it will remind us, because there's a lot of information coming at us. I feel like this season's so different. There's always emails from FIRST. There's a new thing about the remote, this and that. And when somebody reminds me with an email, that's always helpful. How can we better market FLL to kids and parents when we can't see them in school? That is a good one. I can't say I've ever done a lot of in-person marketing anyway. So things that have worked for me in the past is our school system has, where I am, has something called the Friday folder. And it's an electronic, now it's basically a link to a website, and there's different things on that website that people wanted to get out to the whole school. So like I could make a flyer telling people about FIRST or FLL. I could have a link in that flyer, and I submit it to somebody at school, and it goes out to all the kids that Friday in the age group I want. So I would say reach out to your school and find out if there is any kind of a way to send a message to the whole school. So maybe you're going to start with you may end up having to start with the principal and sell them on the idea to get their approval to then reach out to the parents. It really will be one of the best ways to reach them today. I think you can also, if you wanted that kind of in person, maybe that message you're getting out there would be that at this time on this day, there's going to be a live feed or some type of a remote meeting that they could log into, and they can ask questions and find out more about the project. Any guidance from FIRST on safety measures for meeting in person, if we are allowed to? So that link I mentioned, the firstinspires.org/COVID-19 does have that document. This is FIRST LEGO League guidance for COVID. That would be their guidance, their suggestions. There is a limited amount of it in there, and then they're really relying on your school and your, you're talking about community or homeschool. So now you're not tied to a school. So in that case, it's probably your local health department. If you haven't had to reach out to them for any reason, they're usually very open. I have talked to our health department when there was an outbreak around here. The people, this is what they do. These people that is their background, their knowledge is dealing with pandemics. There's not all of them in the health department, but there are people there that they can connect you with. And they can talk through with you if you want, I'm sure, ideas. So I think that FIRST will give you something in that document, but I have a feeling the questions you're looking for with safety measures, you might want to actually just reach out to your health department. And I do think that they are going to be willing to at least give you some thoughts or point you to a link somewhere, which might be with the CDC, I don't know, but I would say give that a try. Let's see, there's another, Okay, so this was something I didn't mention. So somebody's asking about saying that they have rules about not using shared equipment, and do I know if there's any grants to get more kits? So I did forget to mention that FIRST right now has set up that if you are a registered team, that you can ask for and purchase a second season kit for, I think it's $25. And I believe that is through that system where that TIMS, where you registered your team. There's going to be a way to do that. If you don't find that option, just send me an email, because I don't know for sure that is where you do it, but I do know that is out there. So that's not necessarily a grant, but there is a way to buy a second season set for a much lower price. Otherwise, I don't know of any grants that are out there. I feel like that would be something where you might want to look for a local sponsor, possibly, or talk to parents about helping to do that. They are really like standard. The season kits are fairly standard Legos. So buying a basic box of Legos can be also very helpful. But again, you're trying to hopefully get some financial help with that. But kids very often have a lot of their own. So I would, if they're remote, I would encourage kids at home to also use theirs. But if you're in a classroom trying to not share, that extra kit will be fairly helpful for you. Also, don't ever forget things like eBay. Well, not an oddly suggested one, but it's surprising the bulk Legos you can find for a reasonable price on eBay. Okay, here's a good point. So Facebook does have an FLL, some different groups. So this one says it's FLL Explore, Share, and Learn group, and it is for coaches. That might be the one that I'm on. There's also an FLL We Do one, just for you to know as a coach, where people share ideas with the We Do. That'll be helpful down the road, maybe more than this year, but probably this year they're even talking some about how do you do it remote. So yeah, go try it out if you're on Facebook to look up FLL. You might have to try First Lego League, try some different options and see what you find out there. That one, that FLL Explore, Share, and Learn group is definitely the one that is out there. Let's see, if we are an FRC or FTC team and want to reach out to schools, new schools on starting teams, should we do it now or wait until the season starts up later in the year? So the season's really already running. It will be all year. It's a very fluid, this level is very fluid. It's not like FRC or FTC with more specific kickoff days and and competition dates where everybody goes to competition at this date. It kind of happens all year long. Some areas will run in the summer, some run during the school year, the fall, the winter, the spring. So I think you can reach out to the school really at any time. You might find it trickier now. I guess if you want to start one this year, you want to reach out to them now. If you're thinking for next year, you feel them out, see if they're so busy with this remote learning in their towns and like they just can't put one more thing on their plate. You might find the timing a little tricky in that regard. But you can really consider it any time. I think if you want to bring up, it's a good time for them to start thinking about it. I would say if you want to do it this year and you're going to work with a school, I would honestly take a look at that Discover and try that out, because I feel like that has like a really great already preset way for a teacher to do it if they're in a remote environment. I think trying it for the first time as Explore in a school is going to be really tricky, because that one is a little bit more, I'm giving you some random ideas that I have on how to do it. And schools don't really like random ideas like that right now. They have enough of them, I think. So I would say if you're going to do it now for this year, learn a little about that Discover and try talking to them about that, because it is already kind of organized in that way for them and could be useful for them as an activity. So since we have more time before events, should we start meeting now remotely? Any ideas how frequently? In general, I suggested teams to meet once a week. That one's an easier question to answer there. Any ideas how frequently? If you wait longer than that in between meetings, the kids, they don't even remember what they did last time. If it's an every other week, like if you want to just spread it out because you have this time, don't really spread it out too much. You want to meet at least once a week to keep that consistency going. If you were to meet now, the session was set up for 12 weeks, meet once a week, and you would be done like months before an event. That also can be tricky because you're going to have to meet a couple times before the event to remind them what they did. And that's not bad. That's certainly something that you can do. Again, be open, communicate with me or your partner about whether you are running and whether you would be ready for an event at a certain time to see. It's good for us to know when people will be ready so we can try to plan events around that. Yeah, I think if you're already ready to go and your kids are interested, sure, meet now. And maybe at the end of the season, maybe you don't wait for an event necessarily. Maybe you decide you want to find a way to share at the end of maybe you finish in December, you don't know what else to do. We're good, we're done, we did our project. And you are always encouraged to share. So possibly do it then, either share to all the families, your local school, maybe the principal would be willing to have the kids share to them remotely, that. I have already suggested to FRC, FTC teams to be receptors for sharing. So if you're a team that's meeting and you'd like to share somehow, but not just with parents, reach out to myself, your other partners. We might be able to find you a team, a high school robotics team, let's say, that would be willing to have your team share too. That can be very fun for the kids. The kids can be on some type of a platform to share with those high school students, and the kids could ask some questions, and they could also possibly share to the younger ones what they do as high school robotics students. So there are different ways to handle the sharing in the events. Let's see here. I know New Hampshire had a grant program for all FIRST teams. Any idea if that might happen in Connecticut or other states? I don't know about other states. I can sort of comment on Connecticut. New Hampshire has a really good relationship as a state. I know they've promised to get teams in all their high schools. I think Connecticut is not receptive of FIRST. I just don't think at the state level that they are that connected with us. So I don't think that there's anything through the state like New Hampshire has. I'm thinking that might be what you're talking about with the grant program. So no, there isn't necessarily anything as organized as that. I mean, there are some grants available in general for teams that aren't necessarily just Connecticut based, but if you're looking for grants, reach out to me or another partner. We will look. I looked a little bit before this, and some of the grants that have happened are not open right now. I think it's just not that time of year. So like there's a STEM and equity grant. Sometimes LEGO does a grant, but there isn't one open right now that I can think of for you. So just kind of wrap it up here. So don't just say, I don't want to do this year, it's not happening. I do encourage you to be creative about it. We will help you as best we can. It is possible. Kids are very flexible. If they've never done the program, they don't know how it's supposed to be. So whatever version you give them is, don't worry too much. It's not going to be good enough. You try it, and if it works, awesome. If it doesn't work quite right, you'll have learned something and you can keep fixing it. Use your resources. There is a fair amount online. Reach out to your partner. Do remember that thought of let us know if you want to do something with the coaches where we can connect you guys. I feel like that might be very powerful this year. So remind myself or your other partners. Say, hey, I'd love to do something online with other coaches. And then look on that Facebook group might be a good way. That is I've seen a lot of activity at different times with that. So I wish you good luck. Ask if you have any questions, and thank you for listening.
We should